Welcome to Ma's Garage. I'm Crick.
I'm Kev.
And I'm Smokey.
And on this episode, we're going to be talking about depression,
And anxiety.
And joy.
So grab a log and join us by the fire.
Yeah.
If you want to, that is.
They probably don't want to.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
When you're comfortable, you're not growing, you're not learning, you're comfortable. You're in that state.
This one thing you wanted, and you've got this stack of stuff that you've got to do to get that one thing.
Which, I mean, poison is poison. Don't get me wrong.
On an average month, what percentage of your time do you think is spent in a state of either depressive or like anxiety?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Per month?
Yeah, just roughly.
Percent?
What's
roughly?
a rough percentage?
I'd go with probably 60, 70 for me. Go ahead, Smokey.
I mean, obviously not counting the time that you're sleeping.
Right.
You're waking for like in terms of a percentage of my waking hours. Probably like 50, 55. Like not all the time, but certainly not none of the time either. Probably about half the time. I mean, I am pretty anxious about stuff that I got going on because I have so much stuff going on, but it's not stuff that like depresses me or anything. It's all stuff that I'm looking forward to, like stuff that I'm excited about.
But it's in the future, so that's why it's making you anxious, not depressed.
That's true.
Because
and it's stuff
up.
and especially like walking around the house and seeing like projects that it's like it's not done, but looking at it and I know what it's going to look like when it's done. Like that's what like excites me about doing it, but I just don't feel like doing it at this moment.
Right.
I told Kevin that a couple days, like day or so ago, where I literally had the same thought at the same time, and it was, I'm doing nothing, and then at the same time, it's like I'm getting a bunch of stuff done. So like there's this feeling in me that I'm not doing anything, but then I was going through my head of the actual things that I've been accomplishing. I'm like, no, you're wrong. Like it's easy to get caught up in that.
It's probably the biggest
state.
Combatant
It just
to
depends
depression is reflection.
Yeah. Pay attention to what you're actually doing, what you have done.
Yeah. Give yourself some credit.
And I would say that it also depends a little bit on kind of what you're doing.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is I get in my own head a lot. And it's like you said, Smokey, you see the end project, but then it's like, okay, you start going through the steps. Like, well, I don't really want to do that. And if I want to do that, I've got to do this first, but then I've got to do this, but then I've got to do this. And now all of a sudden, this one thing you wanted, and you've got this stack of stuff that you've got to do to get that one thing. And most of it's not even relevant.
And it's all stuff that piles up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we've talked about it plenty of times, but the thing to solve that is lists. Because then you have your order of priorities and like, do it's going to take you 5 minutes and then save the thing that's going to take you 3 hours.
Right.
You know, like lists are huge because then it's in front of your face and you can actually dictate order of importance.
And it's something that you can have control over, that you can actually write out this list and you can add to, take stuff away, and you can keep order of what's going on with the list.
Well, it's wild too. Is like, it helps when you do it. It helps when you write it down. But sometimes I've noticed when I do stuff too, is like, I'll make this thing in my head, this big obstacle, this big task that's, I just don't want to even approach. But when I finally approach it, it took me like 20 minutes, 45 minutes, and it's done. And I've been putting it off for months.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, why didn't you just do that months ago? The time that I've wasted being anxious about it is now hours.
Okay, Mr. Essay, I say, prepare to be written. I'm doing it in some of these, in some of these. Almost there, and
I could have just knocked it out in 20, 40 minutes.
And it's because we're comfortable with what we're doing. And if it's not like a top priority, then it just doesn't get prioritized.
That's where I think I was thinking about that today. There's a big difference between comfort and like happiness. Like comfort is just a state of like sedation, like where happiness is an actual, like you're okay with where your state is.
Yeah, you could definitely look at it that way. I think happiness could also be, one's an emotion, one's a feeling. Like you can't feel comfortable as an emotion.
True. Comfort
like they don't have
happiness.
They don't have a comfort emoticon where it's someone that's just happy on a house.
You can be comfortable with somebody emotionally.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, I guess comfortable is not an emotion.
But yeah, it's like what we were talking about with verbs and or adverbs and all those, they're complementary. They help each other create the other, refine each other.
And you could definitely even say that you can be happy and not be comfortable. You can also be comfortable and not happy.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the way a lot of people are these days, is that they're comfortable. And because they're comfortable, they're not happy.
I think it's helped a lot of people get comfortable and stop panicking, which is a state of mind we value in the animals we eat, but not something I want for myself. I'm not a cow. I'm a pickle when I feel like it.
Because they have a feeling of stuck. They have a feeling of what more can I do? Like, I don't want to be comfortable. I want to be doing this and I want to be doing that. But then as soon as they start like going outside of their comfort zone, they start getting burned by things they didn't plan for or foresee, that it just starts deterring them back into that comfort zone, because it's in my comfort zone I don't get burned. But I walk out that door and someone shoots something right by my forehead. It's okay, maybe not today. Just maybe not
back
today.
Into the safe space.
I did my exercises finally again today after a while hiatus. But she was even saying that today. She's like, when you're uncomfortable, when it's hard, that's when you're learning and growing. When you're comfortable, you're not growing, you're not learning, you're comfortable. You're in that state. It's like when you're uncomfortable, when you want to quit, when you don't want to keep going, that's when you need to keep going. That's when you're actually learning. That's when you're actually progressing yourself. Is through that state of uncomfortableness. Yeah.
It's almost like assuming that you know everything already, right?
Right. I think that's where that relates back into like depression, anxiety, because it's like they're always going to be there, but it's being comfortable in those situations and how to learn from them instead of being, this needs to stop. I need to stop feeling like this. It's like, how do you learn from that situation?
You can't let fear drive you away from doing those things too, for the fear or even the failure of it. It's like you said, that's how you learn. That's how you grow. If you don't ever fail, you don't know.
At the same time, working on those things and like seeing them completed could bring you happiness. Like then you have that feeling of accomplishment. Like, I accomplished all these things. I did all these things. I grew this much as a person because I've accomplished all these things that I can actually like talk about, that things that can like move me forward. It's stuff that can actually like be a positive thing as opposed to being a negative thing.
Exactly. It's everything we've ever learned, no risk, no reward. And in this case, the risk is your happiness. You're either going to be successful and be happy, or you're going to fail and it could bring you down. But it's all about how you take those results too. And like you said, Crick, it's how you learn from it. Yeah. You have to learn something
and embrace it. Like the same thing with fear. The dude who's going down the mountain on a snowboard, even if he's a professional, there's still that element of fear. They've just learned to overcome it. They've learned their confidence and their belief in themselves overcomes the fear. And so there's always going to be that state of fear. You're not escaping that. It's what do you do in those states?
It's that mindset that you adopt, that just no fear, looking straight, eyes on the prize, focused on the goal.
But that's right. That's what I used to do is I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. But I don't think that's and that's at least what I'm learning now is I don't think that's the point though. You are afraid. That's fine. That's fully human and acceptable. So you are afraid. It's just, I'm still going to keep stepping forward, even though I am shaking my boots.
I think they look at it more of like just not being afraid of failure. Like, I'm going to do this. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to learn. If it works out, awesome.
Right. Be afraid of the right things.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and especially
not one of those.
You think about like professional athletes that they have so much going through their minds when they're doing their sport, their craft, whatever you want to call it. And so many of them that you talk to, like, how do you keep a clear mind? Just stay focused. Don't let all the distractions deter your focus. Know what your job is, know what your role is, know what you need to do, and just breathe and do it, and don't think about it too much. Because as soon as you start thinking,
of your ability,
you start thinking about it too much, and you start doing other things, and you don't do it as automatic, so it's more forced. And then, like you said,
when you do that, it's, you make that first mistake because you get in your head, and now you're dwelling on that mistake, which makes you lose focus on something else, and then the mistakes start compiling on top of each other, and before you know it, you're too far into your head. You can't get out.
That's my issue, though, is even when the rational fears get in the way that aren't even like project oriented. Where like when I was in New York at Val's apartment, she's like, "Come check out the balcony. Come check out the view from out here." I'm deadly afraid of heights. Like, so I barely made it out to the center of her like patio, and I was just stricken with anxiety of like, it's this weirdest thing. It's like, because there's a ledge, and it's like, you don't want to fall off that, but there's like the second thing that's just like, wait, why are you thinking about jump? You're not going to jump. Like, what? It's just this weird, like,
but what if you did?
But what if I happen? Yeah. What if I like decided just, am I going to do something stupid? And it's like all these things go through my head, and it's a rational fear. That's heights. We're not meant to be up there.
I mean, say that to the people that are in the skyscrapers, 50 floors in the air.
That stuff. Yeah. And they just get over
Think about the window cleaners that are just like suspended on like this like conveyor that they're just, like going from side to side. And I'm just like, if that carabiner doesn't last,
right,
they're done for.
And they've conquered that fear in some way. But for me, it's literally debilitating. I couldn't even go enjoy that full view because I was so just stricken with anxiety. Like, even right now, my hands are sweating just thinking.
I didn't realize you were so afraid of heights.
I think it's because when I climbed the tree and broke my leg. And
you climbed mountains.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the cliff thing. It's like, heights is not bad, but it's when I know there's
it's when
I can stare out a window.
Edge.
Mm-hmm. Like, I can look out a window of a tall building.
You could fall off.
Right. Exactly. And your planes, I'm fine. I don't know.
And your mind just kind of goes to like that final destination that, oh God, I'm going to step out on this ledge. And then as soon as I step out, it's going to break one of the screws and the whole thing's just going to come down.
Yep. Like,
Murphy rears his ugly head.
Uh-huh. There's gonna be a big gust as soon as I'm standing next to it.
Especially when you have that fear in your mind, like that's what's running through. Like, people that have those rational fears, like that's what's going through their mind. Especially like, think about people that have like arachnophobia. Like, there's some people that are like, oh, spiders are our friend. Like, you don't have to kill spiders. There are some people that are like, if that spider even looks at me, I need to shoot it. Like, it needs to die. Like,
unload a can of hairspray with a lighter.
You have acknowledged my existence, and I need to eliminate yours now.
Mm-hmm. There's people like that with dogs and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost giving the spider control over you.
But
they become your marionette. If they have that much power over you, and they're that small, though,
that's the part that astounds me. Is that something? Which, I mean, poison is poison. Don't get me wrong. Not every spider is poisonous. That's what's nice about it. The ones that are not, which is like 80% of spiders, they're literally like this big. It's like, you could just like hold it in your finger and just be like, how you doing, little guy?
That's where it's programmed in us. Like, that's like a primal instinct that spiders are bad. And it's probably more maybe what region your ancestry came from, because it's the same thing with cats and cucumbers. You know what I mean? When you ever see those videos of the cat with the cucumber behind it, where they freak out. You guys ever see those?
I have not.
If you put a cucumber behind a cat, like when it turns around and sees it, it'll lose its crap and just like take off and go out of the room. And they think it's because they think it's a snake. Like it's just all of a sudden like associates that shape with that of a snake and just spazzes out and takes off. Not every single cat, but most cats will freak out with like the cucumber.
Maybe cats know something about cucumbers we don't.
Right.
Next time I'm home, I'm going to have to experiment on my mother's cats.
Mm-hmm.
Cats don't like water, and that's like 90% water, right?
That's why.
Maybe that's what it is.
Is it a water balloon?
They're like, that's a big old water figure. Get out of here.
I don't want nothing
It's going to get me wet.
Yeah, it's this primal. It's the same thing with heights. It's ingrained. It's not good to fall off a large cliff. Like we
definitely
learn that
not.
as society. So it's like it's
So
plugged
then-
in.
What's your thoughts on skydiving?
Oh, I don't want to. There's like part of me that wants to overcome the fear.
Yeah, I
But
get
then
it.
there's like part of me that's why risk it? There's so many things that I want to do, and people do die quite often skydiving. So it's like, why risk it for the biscuit if all it's going to do is conquer my thing of fear, but it could end my.
And people do it on a daily basis.
every day.
Yeah.
But most people that I know who do it also know somebody who's died from it personally.
That's
Like,
interesting.
It's
I can't
it's
say that
pretty
about
common.
myself.
Just because it's like, I don't know, like just there's failures. Like if something fails up there and if both your shoots fail, I don't know.
And the best of my knowledge is they have like multitudes of tests that they have to do all the equipment through before every single run.
Depends which place you go to.
And you have to put in a
An
ton of
accredited-
hours before you're allowed to do it by yourself.
Yes.
Mhm.
And an actual like credited place that's not like your Uncle Bob taking you up in a duster.
Right. I've done parasailing like off a boat. That was actually really fun. It wasn't scary at all.
Sweet.
But there's water. If I
There's
fall,
water. God
I'm in the
forbid.
water.
God
Even at
forbid
that
something
height, though.
happens.
Yeah.
Splash. Oh my
Cannonball. You know?
God, that really hurt my butt.
But yeah, that's where it's weird. It's like I'm afraid of heights, but not in every single situation. Like if I don't know.
That's wild that you said that it doesn't affect you for flying. Like
Yeah.
my first time flying, like that's what was running through my mind was the final destination. Like, oh God, this plane's going down and I'm in the back and I'm so screwed.
See,
Right.
I get that sometimes, but now what am I going to do? Like if the plane's starting to go down, what am I
choice do
going
you
to
have?
do? Yeah. Like, so I
Yeah,
just accept it.
I'm just gonna have to play this by the minute. And if we start going down, then I'm just gonna have to start praying.
Right.
I mean, what do you think what their solution is if the plane was start going down? What do you think they do? I mean, what good is the freaking slide to let you out? How many parachutes do they have on a plane?
Aim for water. That's all I know.
All the
Right.
all the emergency precautions are like if we have an emergency landing and we have to land in like a lake, it's like well, what happens if you're like dead ass going over a cornfield? Like I'm not sliding out this plane into a giant ass cornfield. Like that's
Why
not
don't-
gonna feel awesome.
Why do you think they don't give you directions on what to do in that case?
Figure it out.
They just tell you where the
No.
exits are.
There's nothing you can do in that case.
That's literally-
There is going to be no slide coming out. If you crash into a cornfield,
Yeah,
it's
it's done.
very, very rarely do people make it out of landing and crashes on the ground. Like it happens.
I think
very
it
rarely.
would depend on how the plane's being landed. Like when there's been like emergency landings when like the landing gear won't deploy.
True. Yeah. If it's not like a engine out kind of dive.
Yeah.
That's what they say though, too, is like the lock your head and do the cannonball is actually meant to like, it's not to help you. That's to make sure you like die on impact. So
Yeah,
that
just
like,
right there. Just
Make
Yeah.
it quick.
well, they
oh my
they
God, never thought
will-
about that one.
they pay less in a lawsuit of like negligent death compared to taking care of an injured person for the rest of that person's life.
Yeah. That
So
makes
they
sense.
sure
Like, just
do.
for
For you
funeral
to die.
costs.
Yeah.
Never thought
So-
about it that way. Never thought of it. So like anyone
Everything's
that
got a
ever
price.
anyone has any questions, please direct them to your stewardess, and the stewardess just like get that out of here.
If we're crashing, pull out the pistol underneath your chair and point it directly at your face.
See, now that's where if you're gonna die anyway, is it like considered suicide still?
I don't know.
Like if you have a 0% chance of living, probably.
Everyone sequentially
do every
pulls
day,
out
though.
a pistol. All right, now turn to your neighbor.
Well, that's
That
what
brings
I'm
it up-
saying. I want to jump out the door. Like if we're all going down, let me just kind of free fall. I want to see what that
Right.
feels like.
Me. What's up, Doc? Jumping without a parachute? Kinda dangerous, ain't it?
There's got to
Let me be a bird before I die.
Which
yeah,
can
there's-
happen. A lot of
there's
people
gotta
get
be a
sucked out if
parachute on
it
there
explodes.
somewhere.
Like if your
Right.
your plane rips open, you'll be outside of the plane. Just take
Oh,
off
yeah,
your
yeah,
seatbelt. Like,
Yeah, when they show that happening in cartoons, they're not exaggerating. That actually happens.
mhm.
Like I've seen it. I've seen it reenacted in enough movies to see that it's real.
Right. Well, I think that's another thing too, where a lot of our anxieties come from is how Hollywood paints a lot of this stuff.
No kidding, and especially when we're watching these movies like Final Destination,
Mhm.
Right.
stuff that's supposed to like scare the tails off of us.
We're drawn
I
to
still
it.
panic every time I go behind a car with a truck with something on top of their truck. Like that's going to fly back and that's going to kill me.
I
Yep.
always get like this very quick flash every time I walk onto an elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just taking that first step and just that slight difference in weight on that. And I'm just like, oh man. And I've been stuck in 2 elevators. So, I mean, that was fun.
That probably doesn't help.
No.
Not as much. Yeah. Like just going down and then, hello?
This is where I live now.
Home sweet home.
That's the P corner.
They say the
Bugs.
reason
You
that
got a
we're
corner
like,
of bugs.
Well, that's the P corner. That's the poop corner.
This is my corner.
That's the free corner.
The poop attracts the flies, so you have food.
Right. Got another one.